Hi, and welcome to Classical Stuff You Should Know, a podcast about the classical world, old books, ideas, which is what Thomas says every now and then.
Do you make fun of me for that?
I'm just saying, like,
no ideas in the rest of the podcast.
Yeah.
Is everything about ideas? Is that the?
I mean, yeah, everything's about ideas. I
Yeah,
guess.
but like philosophy,
Classical ideas?
What is? But I mean, I'm going to talk about a thing from about 100 years ago.
That's a fair
that
point.
Okay.
And so we talk about old books, ideas, old things. And sometimes, my name is.
Can we just pre-record?
No, we're going to roll with this.
My name is Graham
Shots
Donaldson.
fired. What is this?
And I am.
We do not talk about ideas.
Every time we meander in the intro. I'm wondering if we should.
I'm begrudgingly joined by AJ Hannenberg.
He's nailing his intro.
So much hostility. Should we?
What's happening?
And Thomas Fletcher Maggie.
Do you want to talk about it? Like, what's going on?
And sometimes our episodes are combative.
Yeah.
And we talk about the Mongol hordes.
Yes.
Riding off and taking camps.
Like literally combative.
Literally combative. And
combat.
taking and stealing people. And, it's...
And other times you are the combative development.
And
Is that
Alan the Fair and
Yeah.
a wife named Bort.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then sometimes we do episodes about like legions of small, adorable creatures
Yes.
who also are pillaging your vegetable garden.
Yes, this is true.
So Thomas, it looks like you've got a Beatrix Potter book in front of us.
I sure do.
I've often wondered, maybe you can elucidate me on this.
Okay.
Was that a typo on her birth certificate, or is her name actually Beatrix?
What's wrong with the name?
I always thought it was supposed to be like Beatrice.
Yeah.
And it was a mistake.
I mean, as far as I know.
Okay.
It's a cool name.
It's a cool name.
I'll get it to her. She sounds like a witch.
Yeah.
Beatrix, it sounds hard. Like it
You're
sounds
coming after
like
me for my intro?
It's
You're coming after her
50-50 on
for
whether
her
or not
name?
she's going to grow up to be a witch.
Yeah.
If you gave your kid Beatrix, yeah, she's either gonna be like a
Yeah.
Finnish metal band,
Yeah.
or witch,
Or
Yeah.
a witch.
or
Or a yoga instructor.
That's rough. Yeah.
or apparently a children's book author.
Well, and the other things. She also was in a Finnish death metal band. Yeah, we'll get to that part.
I thought you were serious for a second.
Don't
was
you wish?
really
Isn't
excited.
that super cool? No.
There's
No.
that one Finnish death metal band where the guy wears dead fish.
Yeah.
They go hard sometimes.
I've never heard
The
that.
Finns love their death
Is it
metal.
Finnish or was that Nordic? Oh, fine. I'll get to the bottom of this.
Yeah. Thomas, take it away.
Cool. Thanks on that charming note. Yeah, this is quite, again, for you listener, this will be separate weeks, but for us, we literally just finished the Genghis Khan episode and now we're going straight
A little
into
bit of cognitive dissonance.
a little bit for us. But I've mentioned that, we just had our third son and, he's 2 months old and, I think I've maybe done a couple episodes in that time, but it's mostly been Graham and AJ working on their episodes in these last 2 months. So, I did use a little bit of AI to help in preparing for today's episode, and I think it'll be seamless. Like I don't think you all are going to notice that some of the kind of written sections are AI related, but I just want to kind of warn the audience that you might. Just so you know, just like for integrity of the art, I just want everyone to know that there's going to be a little bit of AI kind of included through here. I just want to be upfront about that.
These emails you sent us.
What? So if you can open your first email, not saying this is AI generated. I'm just saying there's a script we're going to read. It's this kind of intro to Beatrix Potter, again, you won't notice where the kind of AI portions come up,
right,
but
cool.
just it's in there. So does everyone see what we're reading, and does everyone know their host
I'm host
number?
one.
Okay, now make sure you just remember your host number.
Okay, got it.
Great. So let's. This is our kind of intro on the Beatrix Potter side.
Welcome, dear listeners, to another episode of Classical Stuff You Should Know. I'm your host, Michael, joined by my fellow co-hosts, Graham and Thomas. Today we're diving into the whimsical world of a woman whose imagination knew no bounds, Beatrix Potter.
Beatrix Potter. Now there's a name that conjures up images of mischievous rabbits and charming illustrations. But who was this enigmatic woman behind the beloved tales of Peter Rabbit and friends?
Well, Thomas, Beatrix Potter was born on July 28th, 1866 in London, England, during the Victorian era. She spent much of her childhood exploring the countryside and developed a keen interest in nature and animals.
Indeed, Michael.
Gentlemen,
Potter's fascination with the natural world led her to become a skilled artist and illustrator, but it wasn't all sunshine and rainbows for her. Society at the time had its own rigid expectations for women, and Beatrix's artistic aspirations weren't exactly met with open arms.
That's right, Graham. Despite
Wait,
yeah.
Despite societal constraints, Potter persevered. Her artistic talents eventually caught the eye of the publishing world. In 1902, she self-published a little book titled The Tale of Peter Rabbit, featuring her own illustrations. And, well, you could say the rest is history.
The Tale of Peter Rabbit was an instant success, captivating both children and adults alike. Beatrix Potter went on to write and illustrate a series of charming and imaginative books, introducing readers to memorable characters like Jemima Puddle Duck, Squirrel Nutkin, and Mrs. Tiggywinkle.
But there's more to Beatrix than just her whimsical stories. Did you know she was a trailblazer in conservation efforts? Later in life, Potter became a dedicated farmer and land preservationist, acquiring large estates in the Lake District.
A true Renaissance woman she was. Beatrix Potter's love for nature wasn't confined to the pages of her books. She actively worked to preserve the beauty of the English countryside. Her legacy extends beyond literature, leaving an indelible mark on the world of conservation.
So there you have it, folks. Beatrix Potter, an artist, storyteller, and conservationalist who defied the conventions of her time. Her timeless tales continue to enchant generations, reminding us that the power of imagination knows no boundaries.
That's incredible.
Wasn't
man.
I Michael?
Yeah.
You started as Michael and then turned into
And then I
Graham.
go, indeed, Michael.
So I don't know why people are worried that like AI is going to take over the world.
Oh, man.
Such a missed opportunity. Like
What?
in showing that that you could have said. So the last line
Yeah.
was reminding us that the power of imagination knows no bounds. But you could have said something like, "What's the name of the farmer? Is it Farmer Brown?"
No, not Brown. It's, why am I not going to remember this right off the bat? McGregor.
McGregor. So instead of saying that, reminding us that the power of imagination knows no boundaries, you could say, Farmer McGregor's fence can't keep out imagination, or something like that,
Yeah.
right?
Or even there, like, is it the power that knows no boundaries or just imagination? It's like, reminds us of the power of imagination or that imagination knows no boundaries. I don't know. It seems like it's, mixing metaphors.
It does seem like it's.
The one thing that worries me is that the prompt,
What did you tell ChatGPT to do?
write a background of Beatrix Potter in the style of the podcast Classical Stuff You Should Know. So what I'm worried is that it like is looking at what we talk like and puts that out. So like we talk in.
We do not talk like
Okay,
this.
good. Okay. I hope not. But very funny jokes.
And who is Michael?
Michael, I don't know where that came from. But if
It's you, apparently. You
Why
are.
am I the one that gets ousted?
Left out,
You guys
yeah.
got in here.
Yeah.
When
I'm in
so if I in a separate thread I ask it who are the hosts of the podcast Classical Stuff You Should Know, and it knows Thomas, Graham, and AJ, but it always misspells Graham's name.
Yeah.
So it does Graham instead of Graeme. So
Which is strange because they must be listening to it as opposed to reading it.
Or people are writing about it.
it could be that your name does get misspelled a decent amount when people write about us. So it could be
People
that.
write about us?
Like reviews and stuff.
What?
Yeah, like in our Apple reviews, definitely people
yeah,
would say
I guess so.
Graham misspelled. And he can write bios for us. So anyway, ChatGPT knows that we exist. So anyway, there's your fun fact.
Maybe.
I don't
Doesn't
know.
know AJ exists.
It does not know.
Apparently not.
not. Sorry about
Michael's taking my. Do you guys know something I don't? Is
Yeah,
there like
sorry,
a
this
new
is awkward.
host
Yeah,
coming in?
this is the
You guys
worst
been
one.
interviewing?
Is Michael in the room with us now?
that. Do you see him right here? So we're going to talk a little bit about Beatrix Potter. We've already kind of covered all the important stuff.
pretty
but
delightful.
That was incredible.
How do we know that was all true?
You said the first. Is there another email like this we're gonna be doing later?
Not like this. Sorry, no.
sad. That
Sorry,
was so
I could have
fun.
done. I should have done more, but Anyway, I did the first one and was like, "This is gold. I'm not going to touch it." So Beatrix Potter, Peter Rabbit, probably the most famous story, but obviously many others. Do you all have any kind of background with Beatrix Potter, Peter Rabbit, any of her stories?
Yep. My mom read them to me when I was a kid.
Yeah. Do you remember them fondly? Like, you feel like you remember them very well?
I feel like I also got them all confused with a bunch of different kids' stories.
Yeah.
Like so for example, like Mr. McGregor is Peter Rabbit where he like wants to steal the carrots and Mr. McGregor's really mad at him.
Breaks
and
into the farm.
Makes the fence.
Peter Rabbit gets past the fence, is eating a bunch of food, sees Mr. McGregor, gets chased for an extended period of time, and then gets away at the end eventually.
I of course remember being a child being upset with farmer Mr. McGregor for not allowing the rabbit to eat the delicious food.
Yeah.
And now I get it.
You're on completely the other side
I've
of this.
completely switched. It's like recently I rewatched the movie Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and now as somebody that works in the school, there's a scene where Mr. Rooney is like Grace, if we let people like Ferris get away with stuff, we'll lose the integrity of we'll lose the respect of all the students and everyone will be crazy. And she's like, oh, Mr. Roed. But I remember at the time you're supposed to hate Mr. Rooney because he's trying to like rain on the chill of Ferris. And I rewatched that movie and I was like, Mr. Rooney makes some pretty good points.
And Ferris makes a lot of bad decisions.
Ferris
that day.
makes some bad decisions that day, and Mr. Rooney is kind of correct. Now, Mr. Rooney shouldn't have gone to Ferris's house, but there's some Mr. Rooney's got some some of his rationale as to why he can't let Ferris get away with this one thing. I mean, I get it now.
And when you were young, is this the moment when you've lived long enough to see yourself become the villain?
Yes.
I think you've lived
definitely.
long enough to become the person you don't want to be. Yeah, I've become Mr. Rooney. Ed Rooney.
How's that feel?
Not great.
Let's have more of these realizations.
I don't know, but looking back, they wrecked that classic car of his
wrecked that
dad's. That's a
car.
nice car. They broke the
know.
windows out.
Yeah.
Like, you know how many thousands of dollars in damages that is?
Yeah. It's kind of related here. Well,
Bow. Oh yeah.
J bow bow.
Oh yeah.
I want another hour of Graham doing that over and over again. What's
Beautiful.
This is our greatest episode ever. I think related. The
80s were a magical cocaine-fueled time.
It's a wild time. That we may or may not get to actually reading some of Beatrix Potter's stories, but I do wonder who is to take your Peter Rabbit example. I don't think he's the good guy of that story. I don't think he's meant heroic to be a hero in that story.
It is to a little kid, I think.
Well, say more. What do you?
Well, I just
You think Peter Rabbit?
all I remember being a little kid is the little animals are the people that you like,
Sure.
and then the mean farmers are the ones you don't.
Yeah, I always thought Mr. Gregor was evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he's again chasing after Peter
it's
Rabbit.
scary.
Who chases a rabbit?
Graham does.
Yeah, I do.
I would now.
Rennie does now, my dog.
I don't think the rabbits would want to eat what I got.
Yeah.
I'm just growing Carolina Reapers. I don't think that's...
Yeah, or
Are
rabbit.
you actually?
Yeah.
Can you grow them inside, or are you growing them on the?
I've got 2 on the plant right now.
Have you tried one?
Nope.
Okay, I'm terrified for this.
I put 1 into a batch of chili the other day and it was barely edible because it was so hot.
So hot, man.
Yeah,
Okay.
so hot.
That's yeah.
I've got 2 and some olive oil right now.
You?
That's pretty nice.
Let me know.
Yeah,
You've tried the olive oil and it's
yeah,
okay.
you don't really notice it right away, and then there's
Yeah.
a little burn afterwards.
Little burn?
Yeah,
Yeah, a
that's
little burn. It's not too bad. I think if I leave them in there too long, it'll get worse. But right now, it's pretty good. I want it to get to the point where it can actually spice your food a little bit. So
The olive oil itself, you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting. Never tried that. So yeah, Beatrix Potter. AJ, do you have any history or connection to Beatrix Potter?
a little bit. I remember reading a few of the stories, but it's not a deep connection. I think Berenstain Bears were more my speed.
Those definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I know that just in thinking about what episodes I'm actually likely to finish over the next few months, what little reading I do at this point is going to be books that I'm reading with my kids. But my oldest is getting into, I'm sure I've talked about this before, but he recently made it through Pilgrim's Progress, which I was surprised at how much he really enjoyed that book. He just started Narnia, so he just finished Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe and really liked that.
That's fun.
Yeah, Beatrix Potter and all these Peter Rabbit stories are ones that he's been reading for a while now, and now my middle child enjoys.
Have you been reading them out loud?
Yeah, for sure.
I just finished reading Voyage of the Dawn Treader out loud to Amanda last night.
And how was that?
She was fast asleep, so I don't think.
Good.
I liked it.
Weren't you
It gets a
doing-
little weird at the end of the Dawn Treader. They're walking at the edge of the world,
Yeah.
and then they see the lamb, and then he turns into Aslan. He's like, "You guys got to go home."
Yeah.
And I forgot how woo-woo Lewis gets when he
Toward
starts
the end.
talking about the sort of the Aslan's country and sort of the cosmic edges and all this stuff.
Didn't Reepicheep
Yeah, he sails off.
going?
Yeah,
He sailed into the Eternal Land?
Reepicheep gets to sail into the Eternal Land.
I wonder if he's like Elijah.
I think, yeah, maybe.
He sails
Seems
off
like it.
alive into heaven.
Man, I love Reepicheep. What a glorious mouse. Just so good.
He does have a pride problem.
A little bit, but I
But
don't
it
know.
works out for him in the end.
Works out for him in the end. He just, yeah.
I'm surprised.
I reread that whole series
Yeah.
about a year ago and just openly wept. It's
Yeah.
so beautiful.
Yeah.
I'm surprised one of y'all hasn't done Narnia yet.
We should.
For a series. Yeah.
And we should do Planet Narnia.
Have you read that?
Oh, yeah.
Someone emailed us about that. But
I think it's spot on.
Because that's connecting each of the books to one of the
Planets,
planets,
yeah.
from the classical conception of those planets. That's a whole thing. I don't know.
I'll do it.
Yeah,
I'm on it.
I don't know anything about that. Anyway, just to talk a little bit about the topic of the episode. So Beatrix Potter, born 1866. We already made reference to that. I'm just going to keep rolling. Born into a well-to-do family, raised in kind of a comfortable upbringing.
Did she defy the expectations of her time?
Or whatever they said in there. Kind of, right? So there's some stuff early on. So Peter Rabbit's not published until depending on which version you're looking at, 1901 or 1902. I believe self-published. I think self-published is 1901. It is very successful. I think it's picked up in 1902. So you got like 34 years there of like Beatrix Potter's life prior to that. So she is selling her own illustrations prior to Peter Rabbit becoming a thing, before her putting that book together. So around 1890, she sells some like rabbit pictures that become Christmas cards. So she is like making an income there, which is good. There's also this whole background of she was a very good illustrator. Like that's kind of what she learned early on in life. And so she has these really, you should look them up. Like there's really neat illustrations of mushrooms, of like
I have seen them.
fungus, and like they're very detailed, very colorful, bright. They're like these great drawings. And I haven't looked a lot into this, but essentially she wanted those drawings to be incorporated into, not just her, but like people who worked with her, to be incorporated into scientific papers. And that was, she was not able to present her own scientific findings, essentially. She had to have, there was a man who had to present that for her instead, because she wasn't able to present to whatever group it was that would hear the kind of scientific proceedings. So there is that for sure. But I forget which of her mushroom drawings, but some are still like used to this day. Like the level of detail, the artistry of them is still compelling to this day. So, there's a lot that happens prior to the stories I'll get into, but obviously the main thing she's known for is children's literature, which comes into play again around the 1900s. So I think, Graham, you were making reference to this. So the children's stories that she writes come from her writing these stories essentially for kids that she knew. So growing up, Beatrix Potter had a tutor, or a governess, I think is the term for it, but like someone who essentially would teach her, like lived in the house, was like cared for her, right?
So she came from a fancier
family growing up. And then this governess, as time goes on, has a kid, and Beatrix Potter starts writing to this kid, and that's Noel Moore.
Oh.
And she writes the story, and I think 1893 is when she writes the story to Noel that is the Peter Rabbit story, or what will become the Peter Rabbit story. But she just writes it for fun, essentially, to entertain this kid. And then kind of goes on her way. And then, 7 years later, 6-7 years later, is like, hey, can I borrow those those letters I wrote you? Can I get those back for a little bit? And the kid had kept them, gave them back to her, and she put a book together of that became The Tale of Peter Rabbit. She originally didn't. Again, if you know anything about Potter, you know the illustrations are very important to these books. And again,
and she did them.
She did those illustrations as well, but she did not do them at first. So the first version of Peter Rabbit, it was just the story essentially, or that plus black and white drawings. But she was encouraged to add these color pictures to them, and she finally relented on that, and then ends up selling. There are a couple pieces to it. First, she wants to sell the story with just these black and white drawings. No publishers are interested. She self-publishes herself 500 copies or something like that, sells out of those pretty quickly, gets the interest of some publishers. She adds in these color pictures, and then ends up selling 50,000 copies of the book by the end of the year after, by the end of 1903. So 1901 self-publishes, 1902 gets picked up by a bigger publisher, 1903 we're off to the races. She's getting the stuff published. And a couple ways to take the story from here. One is that this kind of launches something for her, that we have this one story off the bat, which then kind of goes from there into the sequels that come out of Peter Rabbit. I guess, are there any other stories of hers that you have a fondness for or remember outside of just that Peter Rabbit
I don't
one?
think so.
No, I remember as a kid I always confused her with Frog and Toad, and those are very
Also
different.
good stories.
Yeah,
Also
but
really
not,
good stories.
not the same.
So she follows up Peter Rabbit with The Tale of Benjamin Bunny. So in Peter Rabbit, it's the story about Peter Rabbit going into Mr. McGregor's farm, stealing some of his fruits and vegetables, and then like barely escaping with his life. But he loses his clothes in the process. And his clothes, Peter Rabbit's clothes, get put up as a scarecrow in Mr. McGregor's garden
that's right. I remember that part.
to warn off future invaders from coming into the farm. Well, the sequel is Benjamin Bunny, the cousin of Peter Rabbit, breaking back into McGregor's garden to steal back the clothes that he had lost before. And so, again, it's kind of a sequel in the same vein of what Peter Rabbit was in the first place. And then following our sequel and sequel and sequel of...
So it's like a vengeance story.
It kind of, yes, but much less murder than
than
the Con episodes. But
the same emotion.
the same heart about them.
The same heart.
Yeah, there's no... Yeah.
The same heart as the Mongols.
Yeah, but...
I've always known that of rabbits.
I mean, kind
Savage
of,
people.
You might.
Rabbits are mean, man.
Yeah.
Rabbits are... I feel like rabbits are the jerks of the animal kingdom.
You
I thought
can't.
that was the possum.
Well, the possums just scream at you. I feel like rabbits plot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the raccoon.
I don't know, man.
It's not like these traits are singular. It's like, oh, the raccoon's
know.
the plotters.
The
Nobody
one,
else
yeah.
can plot.
Every rabbit I've known, I feel like it has something against me.
Have you known a lot of rabbits?
Yeah,
it sounds
I have.
I feel like we're gonna have to talk about this later.
I want to
We already
unpack
talked
this
about
one. Yeah, but this is probably in between topic, right?
Yeah,
of all the rabbits you've ever hated. But again, a couple ways of talking through the Beatrix Potter story. One is the expansion of this universe of characters. Again, going from Peter to Benjamin to kind of the surrounding families. She will eventually move into a town called Sawrey, Sawrey. It's just interesting to, as you read her stories, and she'll say this, that these early stories don't have a specific place to them. They're kind of an amalgamation of lots of different villages she's seen or people she's known. The names of the animals themselves will come from previous pets of hers. So there is an actual Peter Rabbit that she had when she was younger. But it's more kind of general in these early stories, whereas the later ones are actually set in Sawrey. Like she'll be describing the actual town where she lives. She has one story, The Tale of Samuel Whiskers, that's set in Hilltop, that's set in this house that she buys eventually. And so it's just interesting to watch as she develops this kind of more pronounced sense of place as the stories go on.
I always like it when houses have names.
Yeah. It's you have a name for the
do,
land,
yeah.
but do you?
Lapidosa?
Lapidosa.
Yeah.
Mhm. But that's more of a like, I don't know if it's kind of not arrogant, but people may mock us for it. But it's more based on the fact that I like the fact that like if you're gonna have a house and you're gonna live there, like name it like Hilltop.
Yeah.
Like that's not a big. No one spent a lot of time thinking about that. It's probably on the top of a hill.
Right.
But it's better than saying like, 79 Mercantile Way or whatever.
Yeah.
We should name our houses. Name your houses, listeners.
That's what I'm thinking. Yeah. I don't.
Do you name a condo?
Yeah, you name a condo.
But are they? You need something unique about it.
You need
to
something
name,
unique
right?
about it.
Yeah.
What would you name it, Hannahberg?
Poopy Pool Overlook?
No.
Nope, I don't like that. No.
You have you're growing peppers.
Uh-huh.
You could call it like Pepperview, or
Oh, I hate that.
or like the peppers are on your balcony, right? And your balcony is like overlook.
Okay.
I don't know. You got to
I mean,
think.
I'll
See,
think
this
on
is
it.
what you
We
got to
think
do.
on
You
it.
got to think this through.
Yeah.
Maybe you've got some beautiful trees in your backyard.
We do.
And so
But so do all of our neighbors. Like there's less unique. That's what's tough.
is that when you live in like the suburbs and
Yeah.
everyone's house kind of
Yeah.
is on the same catalog?
Let me follow this.
All right,
this
sorry.
no, just what you're bringing up. There again, a couple different directions, but just to kind of follow this one thread of the story. Early on in life, she had been to Sawrey and kind of was impressed by it, wanted to move there. Finally, makes that dream happen as she has this financial success that comes out of Peter Rabbit, the kind of extended books that she writes as a part of that. She'll eventually, like I mentioned, she buys this house and then will live there. She has 10 or 12 years where she's very active in publishing books. That's where most of the 23, I think, books that she writes, like most of them are written in this 10 or 12 year period. And then after that, she's mostly focused on farming. Her kind of literary output decreases. She becomes much more interested in kind of the life in this village, and then lives there and then passes away in the 1940s. I think 43, if I'm remembering right. Yeah. So lives to the age of 77 and then dies in there's a near Surrey and a far Surrey. There are these two towns that are right next to each other. Anyway,
We have that in Canada too.
Is that a thing?
Yeah,
Really?
no, it's when ours is like when you've offended somebody really close to you, that's a near sorry. And then when you've offended somebody, but they're further away from you, that's
immigrant.
That's a far sorry.
I
You're like, when there's a near sorry, you say I'm sorry, but when you've offended somebody far away, that's a far sorry.
I was very curious if like this is where all Canadians come from. That was
Sorry.
my other thing. Yeah, from sorry. Yeah, because it's even SAWREY. Like it's even like the inflection of how sorry sounds.
Sorry.
Yeah. And then at the end of her life, she will donate her house in addition to all the land that she has kind of gathered during her life to the National Trust, which is this kind of historical preservation society in England that owns it's hundreds of thousands of acres in England. Do you know much about them? Reading the Beatrix Potter story,
The National Trust?
it's called the National Trust.
Yeah,
yes.
yeah. So the National Trust is like the society that sort of maintains wild English countryside.
Yes.
And they're sort of part and parcel with the Natural Horticultural Society, like the NHS. It's like a big thing in England
Yes.
to try to preserve wilderness throughout England.
And I was trying to. They own something like 1% of all land in England,
Crazy.
like some
Yes.
absurd amount.
And you can become part of the NHS, the National Horticultural Society, and the National Trust. You can become a master at cultivating a certain kind of English plant.
Yeah.
And if you have a certain number of varieties and you have a certain number of them growing at a certain time, you can get a National Trust.
Oh.
Basically like medal, like certification.
Right.
And you are keeping the British periwinkle alive
Yeah.
or whatever. And it's this whole thing. We don't have any. I was going to say we don't have anything like it in the United States. I'm sure we have some kind of like American National Horticultural Society, but nothing
scale.
nearly on the scale of what the English have. It's really quite cool.
The more I read this, the more I was like, this feels like the Graham Donaldson story
Yeah.
of like, she's doing all this work so that essentially she can go work on a farm and focus on kind of, again, horticulture and just raising these plants and all that. And then I made reference.
I haven't done any children's books.
That's you still got time, right?
AJ's cooking up a children's book.
Are you
Working
actually?
on one.
It's how far along is this?
It's about a lighthouse.
Yeah.
want-
I mean, I can tell the plot.
You want to?
I mean, hopefully no one jacks it.
Yeah, that's what I'm
'cause
worried
if I
about.
say it, it's copyrighted, right? Or at least it's my idea.
I think so.
I don't know. Couldn't someone else just make a book about a lighthouse?
whatever.
Okay. If you want to.
I mean, I'm still working on it. Right now, it's about a lighthouse who has a crisis and doesn't want to be a lighthouse anymore. So he tries a bunch of other things. He's going to try being a stoplight at an intersection.
Blinds her.
It doesn't go very well. He's going to try being a spotlight in a theater, but all of the actors are like running across the stage to stay in the spotlight and like getting out of breath and huffing their lines, and the blocking doesn't make any sense, and so
Yeah.
he doesn't do that for very long.
Yeah.
At one point, he is going to go and lay in a field depressed, and everyone thinks it's a music show because of the lights in the sky. And so a whole bunch of millennials are going to come out and sort of like wonder what's happening and lay down next to him. And
Glastonbury.
I need to figure out a way to incorporate some kids. I think a kid is going to stumble on the lighthouse, and then the feelings of the lighthouse are all going to be told through the crazy lighthouse keeper who is old. He's lost his wife and his kids. His name is, what was it? Pirius. And he has one red woolen sock that he switches foot to foot every day, like a benevolent God telling his other foot that it must suffer for the day, and that's how we grow. And the one that gets comfort is like, sometimes God brings comfort. And then, like, that's what I've got so far.
I like it.
So a lighthouse that has a crisis.
Are you gonna illustrate it too?
I don't know. I got some folks that I have in mind for illustrations. So it might be illustrated. It's cooking up to be a little bit longer, I think, than I had originally thought, which is gonna be fun.
Yeah.
So I think all of the feelings of the lighthouse and even the travel of the lighthouse is gonna be like, the kid is gonna ask how they get from place to place, and the lighthouse keeper is gonna be like, "Come on, man, you know this. Lighthouses spin," and that's it.
I like that.
That's all. Yeah.
I'm excited. I'll buy a copy.
See how it goes.
Yeah, I believe. But just to kind of wrap up that side on the conservation piece of it, again referenced in our not at all AI generated introduction, is so at the end of her life, Beatrix Potter, when her life ends, she gives 4,000 acres of land and countryside to the National Trust, as well as 14 farms. Damn. She also gave, I believe it's the original illustrations for her what became her books. So like the notes that she wrote, or the first versions of the pictures, like the original illustrations. She also gave those to the National Trust. Whereas the rights for the book went to her publisher, which then got acquired. This part is not interesting, but eventually was acquired by Penguin, and actually just a few years ago, actually entered the public domain. So we just passed, a few years ago, passed 70 years after Beatrix Potter's death, and that's when her books were put into the public domain. And this is why you can go on Project Gutenberg, and you can look up you can look up her books. There were some that were published posthumously that I think might still be under copyright, but like the big ones are up on Project Gutenberg. You can see the text, you can see the images. It's all up there right now.
Cool.
So anyway, that's the kind of conservation side of things. Again, donated to the National Trust.
Does she have any sort of writings about her, like her thoughts on conservation, or why she wanted to do it, or was she like sort of concerned about the depleting countryside, or like, or she just really like farming? Like, does she have sort of things that she circulated about conservation that, or is this more of a like private concern of hers? Like, was she sort of in the conservationist movement, or was she just sort of doing this on her own, and then towards the end of her life she donated it?
It's a couple of things. So the National Trust is founded by 3 people, and one of them is a friend of hers who growing up essentially got her the start in publishing. So that's Hardwick Rawnsley, friend of the Potter family. He himself was a published author as well. I think he wrote moral poetry. I've tried looking some of it up, and maybe I just didn't give it a chance, but I chose not to read it for the podcast. But he was the first person who tried to connect her with publishers. So she had that connection with him. He then goes on to found the National Trust.
Gotcha.
And so there's that side of it. There's like a personal connection. And then the other, so most of the writing, again, I'm aware of, like right now as we talk, is the children's books. And then she wrote a ton of letters. So her letters get collected. And that's where a lot of her kind of thoughts on, say, conservation would come from. So just to read a few quotes. Toward the end of her life, Beatrix Potter wrote, "If I have done anything, even a little, to help small children on the road to enjoy and appreciate honest, simple pleasures, I have done a bit of good." I already mentioned when she died, Beatrix Potter, I'm reading from A Beatrix Potter Treasury, which is a great book. When she died, Beatrix Potter left 4,000 acres of land to the nation. She dearly loved the countryside, and in her 70s wrote, "As I lie in bed, I can walk step by step on the fells and rough lands, seeing every stone and flower where my old legs will never take me again." So at least appreciated the beauty of the...
Hey man, it happens to us all.
And then she wanted to give that to...
Said when she was 70?
Yeah.
Feels early.
Well, she died at 77, so not too far before. So I don't know I don't know details on...
Exercise is important.
It is very important.
Yep.
Yeah, so I don't know the advocacy side of it, but what she did is she like took her personal wealth, put it in, she achieved what she wanted to in life. She bought the farm, she lived in the town she wanted to be in, and then gave that away so others could benefit from that. And there is now at Hilltop, I believe that's where the Beatrix Potter Museum is. Sure. So a bunch of original illustrations. Yeah, you can go and see the place where she lived and where many of the stories were set. That kind of dovetails with another piece of the story, which I think is interesting, and I don't know how much we'll actually go into it. But Peter Rabbit is like, I don't know, what's the non-jerk way of saying like big intellectual property or significant intellectual property? An interesting fact is that, so original Peter Rabbit stories published broadly in 1902. Well, Beatrix Potter sees that there's success here, and she licenses the first, she licenses a Peter Rabbit toy. She makes like a stuffed Peter Rabbit toy, registers it with the patent office in London, and this means that Peter Rabbit is the oldest licensed fictional character.
Dang.
So she's like,
cool.
And so we have the...
She doesn't sell it to Nickelodeon or something?
She keeps it herself.
There wasn't like a Dracula bobblehead doll before this or nothing?
Apparently not, or at least not one that is given to Bram Stoker or whatever. Like he did not get benefit from it, I think is what this is getting at. If I can find it, there was also she registered the doll. The doll was followed the next year by wallpaper and then a Peter Rabbit board game devised by Beatrix Potter herself.
Dang.
So there's also something here where like she is capitalizing on it, where like she has this great idea, she has a hit, again, sells 50,000 copies in 2 years from nothing, right? Self-publishes to 50,000, then also expands it into these other products, these other kind of toys, games, things that they can play with, that kids can play with. And, maybe it's because we know where her life ends up that she acquires this wealth and then gives it away for the benefit of people. But like, there's something really, I don't know, satisfying about an artist who benefits from what they create and then they own that product for the duration of their life.
The picture of the first ever Peter Rabbit doll is
Terrifying.
somewhat horrific.
Yeah. So it doesn't look good. Can you see it right here, AJ?
Look at that.
YouTube, you can't see this. I don't know. Yeah.
Look at that thing.
Yeah.
That's going to freak kids out.
Yeah, that's the stuff of nightmares right there.
And I think she made them herself. Yeah. Soon after the
I
tale.
bet those go for a gajillion
This,
dollars.
this
you
one's
imagine?
for sale just for 1,000 British pounds.
That's it?
That's it.
For an original Peter Rabbit? They must have made a ton of
Well,
them.
this is a circa 1909, so it may not
A little
be
bit
an
later,
original.
yeah. Well, maybe. So soon after The Tale of Peter Rabbit was published, she began to make a Peter Rabbit doll. Quote, I am cutting out calico patterns of Peter. I have not got it right yet, but the expression is going to be lovely, especially the whiskers pulled out of a brush, end quote. And then I already read the part. She registered it in 1903. So I don't really know what to make of it. It's something
Does
that...
that rub you the wrong way? Is that what
No,
you're
I think it's
sort of
awesome.
saying? Oh,
Like I think it's a point that you two have probably brought up a dozen times, but the picture of the artist as this like miserable, life is awful person is at odds with Beatrix Potter, who, wrote her first book in her early 30s. So not like, it wasn't like she was like young, and then got to profit off of it and then lived the life she wanted to at the end of her life. Like she seemed really happy. It's like
Mendelssohn.
did Mendelssohn
Yeah, he
also?
did the same thing. He was just like around the era when all the composers were like having mental breakdowns and were miserable. He's like, I love my sister and my family, and I write music, and I'm popular, and then I lived a happy life.
Yeah. It's the Canterbury Tales guy.
Chaucer.
Chaucer.
Yeah, Chaucer.
Like he was a wealthy man.
Yep,
And
made lots of money.
Yeah.
Tax guy.
So was
got
Shakespeare.
free wine from the king. Yeah,
Shakespeare,
Shakespeare ended up pretty wealthy. Lived at his house.
It's like Spielberg.
Yeah.
is that, I guess like
Or
he's
he's a Star
profiting
Wars
off
guy.
of
What's
Yeah,
his name?
George
Lucas.
Lucas.
George Lucas. I'm
I'm
sure
sure
he's
just sell it to
doing fine.
Disney, and they can
Yeah.
do whatever they want with it.
Yeah.
You think is he mad
Turn into
about?
a big mountain of crap. Huh?
Is he mad about what happened? In
I have no
in the
idea.
new trilogy?
He probably, you can't hear him talk muffled with this like mountain of money.
I thought I heard that he said when he saw the 3 new ones, he was like, I thought I made these movies before.
Did he
Because
say that?
for the first one
Is the same?
Jedi
Yeah.
in the desert
Yeah.
finds a droid with plans. Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, it's the exact same.
It's the same movie.
Hackles.
And then you feel the hackles raising.
We love Star Wars. What are you talking about?
I don't love the new Star Wars. They broke so many rules.
This is a
Somehow,
oh my gosh.
the Emperor came back. Somehow.
Yeah, everyone.
No
came back.
one's ever really gone.
Is that actually what is that?
That was in the trailer.
That was in the trailer?
That was
That's
the trailer.
embarrassing.
No
Yeah.
one's ever
Yeah.
really gone.
Yeah, because then you can't bring him back for a franchise. The one that made me just
Sorry, Thomas.
This is great.
so hacked. We can talk about this in the
this is
in-between.
great. No,
In-between.
let's do this
We'll,
now.
In-between.
we'll,
No,
we'll
we
chop it
all-
up. We'll
yeah,
chop
this is
it
All right,
up.
I'm pushing my hackles down.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Star Wars
Smooth
is
them.
great.
We need like a hackle comb.
Hackle comb.
I don't even know what that means.
What are the hackles?
Is it the back of your neck? Is that what a hack? You tell me. You're going to tell me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The hairs along the back of a dog or other animal's neck that rise when it is angry or alarmed.
Oh, Rennie does that when he sees a snake.
Yeah.
A rooster too.
As you should. Okay, so we talked about Beatrix Potter. I guess the other part is like the stories are just fun to read. I'm sure if you read what's popular today, or like just pick up your one random kid's book.
Nickelodeon's Peter Rabbit.
Yeah, well, actually, that
He's sassy.
I didn't even think about that. So like, there's a version of Peter Rabbit.
He might be a vampire.
Ooh, I'd watch that. There's like a PBS Beatrix Potter series, which is like awesome. It's essentially retellings of the stories. It's hand drawn animation, like it's great. And then I have not gone much down the path, but there are then Peter Rabbit versions that are newer, your kind of computer graphics, and it's like totally new stories essentially. So, they have to like make it more exciting for I don't know, the kids these days. What am I supposed
Now,
to say?
does
Yeah.
Peter Rabbit, do the Beatrix Potter stories have some kind of moral attached to the stories, or is it just more that it's happy? It's like people living simple country lives, and it's just charming in that way.
I will give you all two choices. To answer that question, we can either read a short Beatrix Potter story, or we can read Peter Rabbit and talk about it. We have time for either one. Do you all have a preference?
Let's read a new one.
Okay, so then I'm going to send you, I actually already sent you one email that says Beatrix Potter 2. Helpfully, you're going to ignore that one and go straight to Beatrix Potter 3. So when you click on this one, you will hopefully get to a Project Gutenberg website, and it'll say the story of a fierce bad rabbit.
Who did you send this to?
Both of you.
I don't think I got it.
To your Gmail.
I got 2 just now.
Oh, that's bad.
Just now.
Okay. So that one I sent
So
a
I'll
little
just
while
search it
ago.
up. It's on Gutenberg.
Yeah.
What is it?
The story of a fierce bad rabbit. I think this was also the most riveting part of the Greek comedy podcast, was trying to get the links figured
Is
out.
my drag to refresh minutes in the? There we go.
Is it finally coming through?
Oh, cute.
Yeah. Okay, this one's shorter, and again, by us reading it on the podcast, you're missing out on all the pictures. There are some relevant ones toward the end that we might describe. I was in Graham. I think you should read this one.
Sure.
It's a modern morality tale,
Okay.
I suppose. So let's go.
And should we have AJ describe the photo?
That would be yes.
Okay. AJ, you up for this?
On the cover of the book is a plump rabbit sitting on a bench. He has a carrot in his mouth, and he looks a little overweight, and he is sitting there staring straight ahead with someone that looks like they have a gun in the background.
Yes. Okay. Let's get down to where the book begins.
This is a fierce bad rabbit. Look at his savage whiskers and his claws and his turned up tail.
The picture of a rabbit that looks not at all savage. He looks like he's running and having an okay time, but he looks very alert.
Yes.
This is a nice, gentle rabbit. His mother has given him a carrot.
The rabbit sits on a bench, eating a carrot.
In the background?
In the background, there's another rabbit.
The bad rabbit would like some carrot.
The bad rabbit is now standing on the bench, lording over the smaller rabbit, who is clutching his carrot like a child, and he seems to be poking. The bad rabbit is poking with his claws at the younger rabbit.
He doesn't say please. He takes it.
Bad rabbit looks like he's slapping the younger rabbit away, who is now on his rump, sort of lying on the bench, and the bad rabbit is taking a big old chomp out of the carrot.
And he scratches the good rabbit very badly.
Now they're both off the bench,
Yes.
and he seems to be biting and scratching at the other rabbit's rump.
Yes.
The good rabbit creeps away and hides in a hole. It feels sad.
The rabbit is hiding in a hole, feeling sad.
Look at the background.
I know.
Oh, there's a rabbit on a bench in the background.
Yeah.
This is a man with a gun.
In the foreground is a man with a gun.
He sees something sitting on a bench. He thinks it is a very funny bird.
The man with the gun, who, by the way, looks like he's got a sort of a picnic satchel strung across his back. He's got a little beard, a nice little hat, and some hunting galoshes. He sees in the distance an outline of a rabbit on a bench.
He comes creeping up behind the trees.
It's the same picture that's on the front of that plump rabbit eating a carrot, looking spaced, and a guy in the back with a gun.
And then he shoots. Bang!
The man is shooting his gun, looking down the sights.
This is what happens.
It looks like 2 ears, a tail, a carrot, and some hairs with no rabbit,
Floating,
just
yeah.
like floating in the air.
But this is all he finds on the bench when he rushes up with his gun.
It's a little plump tail fluff and a carrot and nothing else.
The good rabbit peeps out of its hole,
It's a rabbit peeping out of a hole, and the man with the gun is running past.
and it sees the bad rabbit tearing past without any tail or whiskers.
And there goes the bad rabbit looking frightened with no tail or whiskers.
This is like a horrifying story, right?
It's
Yeah, it's
terrifying.
terrible.
I
Yeah.
thought the rabbit was completely obliterated.
So it's supposed to look like the hunter shoots and then just
Absolutely,
destroys
like
the.
shotgun
Vaporizes
vaporizes that rabbit.
So you'll be shocked when I read this to you that this book was intended for very young children.
Jeez Louise. But the rabbit is alive at the end, but he's got
Correct.
like red, bleary, I've been crying my eyes out eyes as the bad rabbit runs away.
And the bad rabbit has lost his tail and whiskers from this.
sure
So
has.
he's not really hurt, right? I don't know, whatever. He's very scared, clearly, but has survived this. So, Graham, your question was, do these stories have a morality to them?
Jeez Louise.
So this one might be a little more straightforward and on the nose, but what's the story here? What's the warning?
An adult is going to shoot you. That you should
Don't
have.
be a bully or you
don't
get
be a
shot?
bully, you get shot. Yeah. don't steal other people's things and be cruel, or it's like a karma tale.
But that wasn't why he got
It's true.
shot. Like, if the good rabbit had just been sitting there longer, he'd have no whiskers or
Correct.
tail. There doesn't seem to be a connection with the deed and the punishment.
Because he's only hiding. Yeah, the good rabbit's hiding from the bad rabbit, but not to get away from the.
So bully people and
Yes.
you'll save a life.
You'll save a
is
life.
How
Yep,
that works.
Yep, that's the, good. No, it's the great karmic justice that if you are bad, then
Bad things happen to you.
Yeah, then bad things happen to you. I think that's what it's getting at. Yeah. So, is there a moral to the story? I think what is good is that it does not wrap up with, and therefore you should not punch your brother and steal his carrot or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't wrap up that way.
It doesn't spell out the moral.
Yes.
That's just telling the story.
But it just tells a story. It's a funny little story. No one's actually hurt in the end, even though my first time reading, again, as I'm reading through the Beatrix Potter Treasury, we're just going through each story. We get to this one, and I'm like mortified that I've just like told my 4-year-old that like a rabbit got shot. But it all works out in the end. And I'd say most of the stories are along that line of it's an entertaining story. There is a moral to it, I'd say. Like, there's clearly a message to get from it, but you can also read it at the level of, I just like this story. Again, we're not going to read it at this point, but like the Peter Rabbit story, it's entertaining on its own, that there's kind of a scary adventure. Peter Rabbit almost gets caught by Mr. McGregor, but he escapes. But he is like exhausted at the end of his day. His mother scolds him. He has to go to bed cold because he has no clothes anymore. Like, there is a message in there. There is a morality to the story, even if there's not a clear one line at the end. Therefore, don't be like Peter Rabbit.
They don't like turn to the camera and say,
This is our PSA right now.
Yeah.
This one specifically came from maybe this contradicts what I just said. We'll see what you all think. So I already told you the book was meant for small children. It was very specifically written for an editor of Beatrix Potter's daughter. So this editor's daughter, Louie, who had told Beatrix that Peter was too good a rabbit, and she wanted a story about a really naughty one. So I don't, this character is intended by Potter to be even worse than Peter Rabbit.
The bully rabbit.
The one we just read.
He's got his tail blown off.
Which I think, like, Peter Rabbit is
He's
not.
a jerk.
Yeah.
I mean, AJ did a wonderful job describing it, but the horror of that picture of him slapping the little guy and greedily engorging himself on that
Yeah,
carrot.
like jabbing it with his little paws.
It's pretty
so
bad.
mean.
And this is just fun fact. The story, as you imagine, since it was so short, the original version it was published in was kind of like a wallet, essentially, where you pull the pictures out in a row.
Oh, cool.
But booksellers hated this because the pictures would like peel off the page as they got folded back and forth and back and forth. The shops, this is Beatrix Potter writing, the shops sensibly refused to stock them, these books with the wallet, with the pictures unfolding, because they got unrolled and were so bad to roll up again. And so then eventually it gets reprinted actually as a book. But there you go. There's your fun fact of Beatrix Potter trying lots of different things to see what'll actually work.
Cool.
But there you go. Like, I don't know what else there is for it. Like, I know my children's lit episode was like a year and a half ago, but like the takeaway is always like, all these books are up online. You can find every one of them on Project Gutenberg, which is a resource we've talked about before. But most any classic we talk about is in the public domain because it's old enough that no one can claim intellectual property for it or claim ownership of it. So if you're ever looking for a classic, Project Gutenberg is a great place to look. They have all of these Beatrix Potter books, and all the illustrations are up on there too.
And I know in your episode, Magby, that we did a while ago about children's literature, we sort of talked about that question about, do children's story writers have an obligation to have not a happy ending, but at least some sort of sense of like something moral or some sort of sense of if these are going to be stories for impressionable young minds, is the fact what kind of impression you're going to make even more important, or do you just sort of like tell whatever story that you want? I remember we talked about that in the other episode. Do you have any, now that you sort of like spend more time with these stories, do you have any further thoughts on that?
candidly, I don't remember what I said a year and a half ago. So if I repeat all of it, our listeners probably won't either. So, I think the story has to be good on its own as well. And I think that's something that Potter gets right, that whether there's even like saying that the message of Peter Rabbit is ambiguous, which I think is fair. Mm-hmm. In the sequel to the story, the mischievous Peter Rabbit gets his clothes back. Like it all works out for him in the end. So like, was he really punished for it, or was he like condemned for breaking into someone's farm and stealing their vegetables and all that stuff? So even if the message is ambiguous there, it's a good story. And for the message to matter to a kid at all, it needs to be something entertaining.
Sure.
So you need both. And this is not to over vaunt this, but this is like what you get with this union of good, true, and beautiful. Like this idea of like you might think of those as three separate ideas, but there's actually a unity to all three of those. And so if a thing is going to be, if it's going to have a true message or a good message, it should also be a beautiful story in its own right, which I think is what Potter gets at. That it is. To read it, to look at the art, it is a work of beauty, and then also you pair that with messages that are good and true, but not moralizing. So I think that's part of what makes it lasting for 120 years or whatever we're at.
And I also remember from that episode also mentioning that violence in a children's story it's not important. But there is, in the older stories, you get the sense that like shying away from violence, like the hunter actually like shooting the bird. I can imagine or shooting the rabbit. Right. I can imagine a modern story had the hunter like realizing that hunting was wrong, and he put his gun down and realized that once he stopped being a hunter, he made more friends in the animal kingdom, and everyone was his best friend.
And he raised both rabbits.
Yeah,
right.
And and then whereas like that's I don't know. There's something about the allowing a small amount of scariness and a little bit of amount of violence in the story is a like important part of children's stories.
Sure. This is the first page of Peter Rabbit, and I'll just to your point here, just like the casualness with which these dark elements are brought in. All the characters are introduced, and then the mother is saying to her four kids, "Now, my dears," said old Mrs. Rabbit one morning, "you may go into the fields or down the lane, but don't go into Mr. McGregor's garden. Your father had an accident there. He was put in a pie by Mrs. McGregor. Now run along and don't get into mischief." Like, just very casually, like, your father was killed by this family.
Your father was killed by this man and turned to a pie.
Yeah.
An accident.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, but they show
that's the thing you would say to a child.
Yeah, but they show the picture of like that's the pie that the father was baked into. That's like again the third picture in this thing. It's just like there, and it's just like very casually. Yeah. So I think that's I don't know what the term for that is, but like it's like a respect of your audience kind of thing of not trying to hide something. And Sarah's reading The Secret Garden right now. Have you all read this before?
And the mom's sick, right?
Yeah. I mean, is this a spoiler? Sorry if I'm going to spoil The Secret Garden. It's just the most recent part of it she read. The family gets cholera and all dies, but the main character is like knocked out. Like she accidentally gets drunk and like passes out while her family all dies, and she wakes up and like is surrounded by death. That's like a children's book, right?
So that part.
Yeah, but that's one of those. Part of it is maybe people were more, they saw death more than they do now. And so maybe it was more common part of life. Or in this setting, if she's writing for people who farm, like they see animals die, like that's a normal thing. And maybe is not as traumatizing or scary or whatever as it might be today. So I don't know how much of it is people were just accustomed to different things versus you should make sure kids know that death is a real thing.
That's right.
I think that second one matters too.
Rabbits are delicious.
Rabbits are delicious.
I mean, and this is not that we're living on a farm, but we're out in the country. And I've seen more dead animals in the past 2.5 years than I did in the past 15, 20 years living in the city.
Right.
So
there's something to that.
thing.
Yeah. So
crazy.
I mean, you see cockroaches, but not much else.
they're so gross. Yeah. You saw scorpions for a long time too, right?
Not anymore. Not downtown.
Yeah.
I've seen there's one cockroach I think that's living in my closet.
Gross. You should
Borrow one, get rid of it.
get rid of it. Yeah.
There's no food in there.
Oh.
He's gonna die eventually.
Yes.
Gross. Well, that's been that's
Cool.
Beatrix Potter. So check it out. Go read some kids' books.
Awesome. Well, This has been Classical Stuff You Should Know with Graham, Thomas, and
Michael.
AJ. Michael. You can email us at the guys at Classical.
Yep. Hey, I wrote this outro too. Yeah.
At classicalstuff.net. You can.
Hey, hold on. Should I have ChatGPT write us an outro?
For sure. Yeah.
You work on it.
Yeah.
I got it.
have like 30
And
seconds,
So
yeah.
in the meantime,
Don't worry, I
while
got this.
AJ is doing this,
Yeah, now you got to like just pass time.
if anybody is watching on YouTube, which you're probably not, because I don't think we've had some people email us asking us if we're going to.
I saw a comment that said,
or a comment.
if it wouldn't be a problem, could you please? Yeah, we're only a year behind.
I know,
So
we're only a year behind. But if anybody is watching this on YouTube in the future, it is not a beer bottle sitting in front of me in a Christian education school. It is Virgil's vanilla cream soda. Just
it?
wondering.
you gonna email us,
I
or is it
drank,
just you?
and I feel gross.
Yeah.
I feel absolutely gross because I had 84% of my daily recommended amount of sugar, which is probably already 300% more than a human body should have.
You don't have a lot of sugar to begin with.
I do not. I definitely don't. This is the first soda I've had in 15 years, and I feel disgusting.
Was it delicious?
It was delicious.
Okay, I'm going to email this to us.
Okay. Are there parts for 3 of us?
I'm just going to reply to Beatrix Potter 1.
Okay, deal.
right,
I'll be looking for a Beatrix Potter response. This
Okay.
is
I'm
riveting.
host 1.
Okay.
Keep your host numbers.
Well, I got to wait for it to come.
I have to wait. It's not here yet.
I'm sure everybody has stopped listening to this.
I emailed it
episode
to
by
classical
now.
stuff to the guys at
The
classical
guys?
stuff.
Oh, not
Oh
to.
well, woofle-roo. How am I need to log into I don't have that on my phone, so you guys will have to do it.
Oh, I can forward it to you.
Do it.
want it
Anyway,
at Veritas?
so
No,
no,
your
just my Gmail.
personal.
It's fine. And
got it.
why don't you just announce it to everybody?
Forwarded.
Appreciate it. So
All right, I'm there. I'm ready. So which host am I?
I think you're host. Let's see. You were host 2.
2, and then Graham
Graham
is
is
host
3. I'm not
3.
there yet.
Okay.
just I'm drag to refresh. There we go. All right, boys.
Okay.
Let's do this.
And that concludes our exploration of classical knowledge on today's episode. We hope you found the journey through history, philosophy, and literature as fascinating as we did. Remember to hit that subscribe button, rate us, and leave a review on your preferred podcast platform.
Your support means the world to us. If you enjoy what you hear and want to help us continue bringing you engaging content, consider becoming a patron on our Patreon page. Your contributions enable us to delve into more captivating topics each week.
Connect with us on social media to stay in the loop. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram for additional insights, behind-the-scene moments, and updates about upcoming episodes. Your feedback and interactions are always appreciated.
As we wrap up, we encourage you to keep exploring classical knowledge, whether you're revisiting the classics or venturing into new territories. The pursuit of wisdom is a lifelong journey. Until next time, keep seeking, keep learning, and keep appreciating the timeless wisdom of the classics. Thank you for joining us on Classical Stuff You Should Know.
It's pretty inspiring.
It's good.